Alright, here we go. This is the second half. These are my picks for what I think are the best Money in the Bank cash-ins. So, number 7 is Randy Orton. Now, I hate Daniel Bryan, so you're probably thinking this would be higher. And also, I can hear you complaining, well, you didn't like the fact that Daniel Bryan fell on a world championship. How can you like that Orton fell onto a championship? Here's the difference, okay? First of all, it was sweet justice, and it didn't even need the Shield for it. It was poetic justice because the way that Daniel Bryan won that title and having just falling on it, now it happened to him where somebody drops him and then somebody just lies on top of him and takes the title from him. It was poetic justice as far as I'm concerned. Second of all, the setup for it. When Mark Henry DDT'd the Big Show on top of the steel chair, he didn't do it for Daniel Bryan. He did it out of anger, and he did it basically for himself. However, when Triple H pedigreed Daniel Bryan, he did it for Orton. So Orton comes down after John Cena had carried Daniel Bryan through the best match of his career. Orton comes out, and the crowd is anticipating what's going to happen, and all of a sudden Triple H, boom, pedigrees him right in the middle of the ring, and the crowd cheered. They were happy for it. How about that? The crowd that says that they hate Triple H because he buries people, just buried your little internet darling in the middle of the ring and had Orton cover him. That was for Orton. It was a perfect setup. And it was done well, I thought. And that's why it deserves to be number 7 on this list. Now, number 6 on my list is Kane. This one was kind of shocking because Kane had just won the Money in the Bank briefcase and he cashed it in immediately. Almost like, an hour? An hour later, boom, he had the World Heavyweight Championship. After Rey Mysterio had just to defend the title, here comes Kane, and he puts him down and chokeslams him and wins his second world title. His second world title, and the first one he only had for a day, and that was 12 years before. Now, I thought Kane's title reign was good. He had an interesting feud with The Undertaker. I would have even had Paul Bearer come back for a while. And I thought his cash-in was good, and it deserves the spot number 6. Number 5 on my list is the show-off, Dolph Ziggler. People have been wanting Dolph Ziggler to cash in that contract for quite some time. And they even wanted him to cash it in on Alberto Del Rio at WrestleMania 29. That match was good. The match itself was good. However, it lacked the... what's the word I'm looking for? It lacked the tense situation of whether or not Del Rio would lose the title, because after Jack Swagger became Weed the People, we kind of knew he wasn't going to win the World Heavyweight Championship. So we were waiting for Ziggler to cash in that night. But instead he cashed in the night after WrestleMania, which was cool. And that Izod Center was, ecstatic, and they're happy. I was glad to see Ziggler win the world title and have a true run. Unfortunately, his title reign was kind of marred because he only defended once, and not to mention the reason why was because Swagger had given him a concussion or a stiff kick to the head, and that kind of derailed his world championship reign, I thought. Well, it could have been really cool for him to be champion, and it kind of got derailed, unfortunately. And he hasn't been near the title since then, which is unfortunate. I think he's a great wrestler. He's one of my most underrated wrestlers in WWE, but unfortunately, he hasn't been close to the title after that unfortunate incident. Unfortunately. Number 4 on my list is CM Punk's second cash-in. This one caught people by surprise, especially since we have been following Jeff Hardy for the better part of half a year, well, almost an entire year. We were watching him trying to be champion, He was WWE champion for like a month, and then he loses that title. His brother costs him the title. Then he tries to win a World Heavyweight Championship on a couple of occasions, and then finally he wins in a ladder match against Edge. And here comes CM Punk and hits him with 2 GTSs and puts him down, and in the process turning heel. And I thought how he did it was really cool, and even his explanation afterwards. Look, this thing doesn't say, hey, don't cash in on a good guy. This cash in on whoever, and I did. And he definitely made enemies in the fandom because they really like Jeff Hardy, and it was cool to see. And I liked his cash in. It was unexpected. It was really interesting, and I thought it was pretty cool how he cashed it in. And he had a good rivalry, I thought, with Jeff Hardy for that title. So that was a cool cash in, and his second one was definitely better than this first one, in my opinion. And number 3 on my list is Edge, the first time. Since it was the first Money in the Bank, it was not known how the Money in the Bank briefcase holder would cash in. Everybody thought he would just challenge him to a match. But then, after Elimination Chamber at New Year's Revolution, beginning of 2006, here comes Edge. He cashes it in, hits a spear on Cena, I think maybe twice, and then 1, 2, 3 becomes a champion. It was the first shocker of the Money in the Bank cash in. It was really cool, I thought. Lawler kind of, I don't really like Lawler as a face commentator. He was talking trash. Oh, if this was a fair one-on-one, could he have actually taken it? Yeah, maybe not. But it was cool to see him actually win the title after so many years. He was a tag team champion, king of the ring, mid-level champion. Now to elevate into the top prize. Unfortunately, he would lose that title 3 weeks later, so the impact of it isn't as great as it could have been if he had held it for longer, I think. But it was still the first shocker of the Money in the Bank briefcase holder. In my opinion, it wasn't the best because you had Vince McMahon come out. It was kind of ceremonial in a sense, and it wasn't as, they just run to the ring like you see happening after Edge's second Money in the Bank cash in. But I honestly think this one was better because it set the precedent, and it was cool to see. Number 2 on my list is The Miz. Now, I'm a Miz fan. I'm a Misfit. So you probably thought this one would be number 1. It's not, but I had reservations whether or not to put this one at 2 or 1. Now, this is another one, came out of nowhere. And not to mention, the story of the night was all about Orton and Cena. Cena being quote-unquote fired, and Wade Barrett wanting a title shot again that night against Orton. He got it. And then Orton, retained with help from Cena. But then here comes the music. You hear, awesome! And he runs down, and he's just amped up and psyched, ready to go, cash in that briefcase. They actually have a short match, which you don't usually see with these sort of cash-ins. And my brother and I were kind of concerned. I hope he's not the first one to fail to get that title. And then we watched it, and it was great to see the counter from the RKO into the Skull Crushing finale was really cool. And my brother and I were happy. I called him right afterwards, and the first word we said was, awesome! It was cool. I was really happy to see The Miz be the WWE champion. Reaching that top, I know people turned on him because that's what the internet fans do. They turn on people, but I didn't turn on him. I thought he was still cool as champion. He even headlined WrestleMania as the WWE champion, even though, like I said, WWE did everything they could to bury him in that pay-per-view. So Mrs. Cashin was awesome, and it was another one that came out of nowhere because he was supposed to be in a match earlier that night, but they were saying, oh, he's not there. You know, he sends Alex Riley out to do the match for him, but then towards the end of the show, boom, he cashes it in, and Punk is on commentary. He was pretty cool on commentary, and The Miz walks out WWE champion, and I was happy. It's one of my favorites. I was debating putting this one at number 1, but I couldn't do it because I think number 1 had a little bit more of an impact. It was more emotional for the fans, and there was an actual match to it. Number 1, RVD. RVD cashing in. He actually challenged Cena to an actual match at ECW One Night Stand, which was the relaunch of ECW. And man, watching that, even now, if you go on YouTube or buy the DVD for it, however you watch it, it's still very emotional. You see the crowd are really like on Van Damme's side. They despise Cena. He's like everything that they despise about the WWE for some reason. And this was before WWE was PG. He was the fire breather. To quote him, earmuffs if you don't want to hear me cursing. He was the fire breathing son of a bitch. So I don't know why he was already being hated. Maybe because they're internet fans and that's what they do. They turned on Cena. They wanted him to be champion for a while. Once he was, they turned on him too. But Van Damme, they didn't turn on him. That night, it was ECW, the rallying cry for the relaunch. It was so emotional seeing those people. Dude, I wasn't as emotional because I was a fan of RVD and I did like ECW, but it didn't mean as much to me as it did for that crowd. But you could feel the emotion coming from the TV, that they were so ecstatic about him winning the WWE Championship. There was a sign, I think this was the first time you would ever see that sign that said, if Cena wins, we riot. And knowing that ECW crowd as well as I believe I do from when I watched ECW back in the late 90s, they would have done it. They would have rioted. Because these are the people who threw 100 chairs into a ring just because Terry Funk asked for one. Most of the crowd for one chair, and they threw 100 or so chairs into the ring because they're psychotics. And if Cena had won, they would have rioted, and people probably would have died. But Van Damme won. It was a right call. And you saw a lot of people happy, or probably even some people crying about Van Damme winning it. And he was now the next Tuesday on ECW's relaunch, he became the ECW champion as well as the WWE champion. Unfortunately, he kind of ruined his one big chance and glory because he got caught with pot in a DUI like a month later, and they basically stripped him of both championships by having him drop both of them soon afterwards. So unfortunate, but the cash-in itself was great. It was emotional. It was actually a good match, and Cena had a really good match with Van Damme. There was nobody being carried in that match. So those are my favorite Money in the Bank cash-ins, or which one I think are the best. So let me know what you think. What were the best Money in the Bank cash-ins in your opinion? I gave you mine. Share with me your opinions. So I got more videos coming up down the road, and until then, take care.